So I suppose in general terms, though, eating the rainbow and eating maybe the four Ks, the sauerkraut, the kimchi, the kefir, and kombucha, and those things would in general help someone.
Um, Potentially, and again, that's the whole thing. It's just like it's it's worth a
Anecdotal.
shot. It's worth a shot. You know what I mean? Like in terms of what I would advise on is like, one is, if people are having digestive issues, is take digestive enzymes to help break down. It's kind of like there's a cycle. The way it's kind of I kind of understand it is that when you break down food in your body, the nutrients in that food help create your digestive enzymes, which help break down food in your body, which help create digestive enzymes. If you're not breaking down the food in your body, you're not getting the nutrients that create the digestive enzymes, which therefore means you can't break down the food in your body. To, that cycle kind of gets broken. So by taking, an inexpensive digestive enzyme supplement, you can stimulate, essentially the enzymes are what's actually kind of breaking down the food into its absorbable parts. And I think that's first and foremost. Trying probiotics, absolutely. Fermented foods. I think fermented foods can be better than probiotics simply because they're more natural, which means you're probably getting a more variety of those microbiomes we were talking about, which means then rather than just, Actimel lactobacillus or whatever, do you know what I mean? Like, but that's only one out of millions of different strains. So I think, more natural food is something that fermented foods that people could try.
So a little dig at Cian here. I was doing an exercise. I can't remember what it is. He knows I love digging at him anyway. So I was doing an exercise and I was asked, why am I doing this? What is the importance of this? And it's like, because I like to know why I'm doing something. That's just what motivates me. I can't remember what the exercise was anyway, but his response was, how do I say this? Because he knew he was digging a hole for himself. As you get older, he said to me, anyway, as you get older, there's this idea that the metabolism will slow down. Is that the case? And if so, what can be done about it?
Okay, so as we get older, so when we look at metabolism, it's all the chemical processes in our body essentially, in terms of what keeps us alive. So when we look at, when we think about metabolism, we're kind of thinking about the amount of calories that we're expending on a daily basis, the energy needed to keep us alive. So the problem is as we age, we move less. So that's the big thing. Is like as we age, we move less. It's not necessarily that our metabolism is just shutting down. It's we're actually moving less. We're becoming more sedentary, and even in terms of our joints get stiffer. So it's harder for us to do a full squat. Different things like that. We get up and off the couch slower. There's kind of up and down stairs slower rather than as a 20-year-old bouncing 3 kind of steps at a time. You're going one that kind of thing. So I think that's one thing to kind of really understand, that we're slowing down as we age, as opposed to we're becoming slower.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So that's the kind of first thing. Then we also do lose muscle mass as we age. So as our muscle goes down, we will lose a bit of that metabolic activity, because muscle is to keep muscle on your body is quite metabolically demanding, let's say. So when we have less and less and less of that on our body, it's essentially less energy for our body to have to look after. So there's kind of two main things that when they combine together is, yes, then our metabolism is getting slower, but it's something that we can counter. And we're in a lot more control of it than I think we believe.
Yeah, I suppose it falls into the whole fixed versus growth mindset. You say, okay, my metabolism's getting slower. There's no point. That's it. I can just give up.
Or it's kind of like, it's just my metabolism's getting slower, so I'm just going to gain weight, or my metabolism's getting slower, so I can't do the X, Y, and Z. And as I said, it's almost like just giving up. But it's kind of like it's we can control our metabolism an awful lot more than I think what we we give it credit, what we give ourselves credit for.
Do you have time for a few more questions?
Yeah, keep going. Fire away.
Nice one. I suppose you can edit it anyway. Protein. Protein's important. Just discuss why.
So, I suppose like when we're looking at, again, if we're looking at weight loss as a topic, or even kind of looking after your muscle and stuff like that, is protein is responsible for the growth, maintenance, and repair of every single cell in our body. So that's kind of that's a given in terms of that. Now there's a lot of debate on how much protein we need or we can get away with and that kind of thing. But when we look at studies on weight loss, is one of the things that they found out is that if they equate protein, i.e., let's say a high carb diet with same amount of protein as a low carb diet, high fat, and it's the same protein, you'll get the same fat loss. The problem is that that's controllable within a metabolic ward setting where they're kind of giving you foods and knowing exactly what. Whereas if somebody goes on a high carb diet versus a high fat diet, a high fat diet may end up having more protein in it than the high carb diet.
Okay.
So then if you're just looking at, kind of trying to study it that way, where you're not actually manipulating the actual protein itself, you can see then sometimes people, oh no, the high fat diet is better for people to lose weight. But it's not, they're eating a higher protein diet. The thing with protein is it's more thermogenic, which essentially means it requires more calories to break it down. And believe it or not, about 8 to 10% of our daily calorie expenditure is used for digestion. So, like if I'm roughly, let's say if I base metabolic rate of 3,000 calories or something, I'm not a base metabolic rate, if I burn about 3,000 calories a day, that means 300 of my calories just goes to digesting the food. Probably more for me than I'm eating at the moment. And again, it's kind of these numbers, they might be kind of small numbers, but over time they kind of do add up. And the big thing then with protein is that muscle is protein. Kind of, and that's what we got to look at is in terms of is if we're losing muscle. So as we age, if we're losing muscle, we're losing function. So if we lose strength and movement ability as we age, it becomes very debilitating. Mm-hmm. To the point of frailty and how it happens is people, they lose their balance, they fall over, they break a hip, they end up in hospital, and they end up dying from complication. It's kind of like there's a chain of events that for hip fractures that are literally kind of a study done on people who get hip fractures and the death outcomes past a certain age and that kind of thing. Okay. Because they become completely immobile.
Okay. So protein, then obviously it's important when you're trying to lose weight to maintain your body's muscle, and when you're trying to put on muscle, obviously to gain muscle. You mentioned there a subject for debate. How much do we need? Is it based on our lean body mass or our full body mass? Because there's going to be a huge difference there in the
So if somebody was very, very overweight, it might be protein for goal body weight, or kind of a or like healthy body weight or whatever. But generally, if our BMI is in and around kind of, if we're overweight and our BMI is around 30 or something like that, it's the calculations are roughly 1.6 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Now, years ago, it used to be generally recommended as more. It's kind of almost like 2 grams. But the more science and research and studies they do on it in terms of to maintain muscle mass, it looks like that the kind of 1.6 is the kind of the ideal number. Now, having said that, is when you do these studies, you've got X amount of people in the studies. Some people can do better on less, and some people need more. So some people will lose muscle eating 1.6 grams of protein. Some people will gain muscle eating 1.3, and other people will lose muscle eating 1.9. So it all comes down to them is like, ourselves. So generally what I advise is, and kind of use, let's say, the in-body here, to get a rough estimate of what's happening in the body rather than just scale weight. But if somebody's muscle mass is staying where it is, I don't give a rat's ass how much protein they're eating.
Mhm.
I'm not going to, recommend something. It's like, it's irrelevant. If they're losing weight and their muscle mass is staying roughly the same, it's like, well, just keep doing what you're doing. It's working. Don't get bogged down in details, where someone else might have to work a little bit harder because their muscle is coming down. As they're losing weight, because again, when we look at muscle is mass, it's tissue in the body, fat is tissue in the body. They both have a weight, and they're both metabolically active. So basically, in terms of all that means is that when I go to start losing weight and I go in and put myself in a calorie deficit, I'm burning more than I'm eating. There's this gap there that I need to fill, and that gap is going to come from the tissues in my body. Now, whether my body uses muscle or fat, sometimes is down to just genetics. I can control a lot of that by A, weight training, and B, eating enough protein to basically try and give all the signals to my body to say, hey, please keep a muscle, please keep a muscle, please keep a muscle. But I've no doubt I will lose some muscle while I'm going into calorie deficit, because it's largely probably inevitable.
Yeah, so there's a few things that pops into mind there. Obviously, as you lose weight, your calorie requirements shrink, which is horrible. It's just horrible. The other idea that there's a fat set point.
Yeah,
is that something? And if it
is, that I've seen over and over and over again, that ultimately, essentially, and there's kind of like we've certain hormones that are largely influenced by our fat cells in our body, and two of them are ghrelin and leptin. Now again, we don't need to. Ghrelin is to do with hunger. Leptin is a lot to do with our metabolism and stuff like that. But if we add fat cells into our body, and we're storing fat, they in theory stimulate leptin, which increases essentially our metabolism, and lowers ghrelin. So increases ghrelin, so that we become lowers ghrelin, so we become less hungry. And essentially is trying to actually keep us at our normal weight. Now, this is the theory behind how these hormones work. Yet we look at, well, what about someone who's very obese and just constantly eating? And essentially what happens is those hormones get completely, flipped, and we get, we've heard of insulin sensitivity. Insulin's another hormone. So basically the body just starts misinterpreting the signals in the body, and then, they get lost essentially. Like essentially you on your body, we have a built-in mechanism to stop us gaining weight, but it doesn't work with our lifestyles. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work with our lifestyles. But like when you learn about hormones and the ghrelin and leptin and what they do, you're kind of like, oh, why do people get fat then? Because like they're designed not to let that happen. But I think what happens is the body thinks, if you're at a certain weight for a certain amount of time, your body just thinks that this is our normal weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And your kind of your brain's perception of your body is normal. It doesn't be different. So then is that when people lose weight and the body just goes, no, oh, we're in a deficit. We're cannibalizing our tissues here. We're in crisis mode, word you used earlier on. This is no. Let's increase hunger levels. Let's reduce activity levels. Let's get back. We can't be doing this. So I think that's where kind of having some sort of maintenance periods where you're actually trying to hold on to your weight, which can be almost just as challenging as a diet period, because your body has been fighting you to try and actually put weight back on. But your body can then normalize and say, right, well, this is our new set point. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to lose weight again, but it's only trying to push you back to that new set point as opposed to the old set point.
Okay. So in terms of ghrelin, I heard it this morning on a podcast, leptin and ghrelin are affected by a bad night's sleep. So a bad night's sleep can mess up your
like they've done numerous studies on sleep deprivation and that kind of thing. So it's like they'll give the participants buffets, and it's like just basically help yourself and whatever, and they'll just study them, and they don't even know what they're being studied for. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, we're doing a sleep study. Some only get 4 hours, the others get 8 hours. And the people who are only getting 4 hours sleep end up eating, I think it was 30% more calories for breakfast. That's a lot. That's a big chunk. So that's another one where sleep is important. And another one, they did a study on people on a diet in terms of in a calorie deficit, and the people who were sleep deprived lost more muscle and less fat than the people who had normal sleep.
Okay. Such a big factor in getting a good night's sleep there.
Essentially, sleep is your body's recharge time. Do you know what I mean? So we produce an awful lot of hormones, like growth hormone, EPO. Do you know what I mean? It's the cycling kind of doping drug. But it's basically stimulates red blood cell production, and our red blood cells, you know what I mean, they die, and we need to replace them, and that kind of thing. So everything in their body is constantly being replaced and renewed. I think is there a statistic of something every 7 years we're a completely brand new person. That none of our cells are more than 7 years old or whatever like that. So our body produces an awful lot of hormones when it is sleeping, when it's at rest. And these hormones are designed to repair, regenerate from the previous day's stresses, whether they're physical or mental stresses from the previous day. So if we're lacking and missing out on that repair and regeneration, well then kind of the things aren't going to work as well as they should.
It'll keep us in crisis mode all the time rather than being efficient about achieving our goals. There's one last topic that's very dear to my heart, and that is I heard a quote the other day. We used to eat to fill a hole in our stomach, and now we eat to fill a hole in our heart. The concept of emotional eating and cravings and binge eating comes into it as well. I'll give you an example of what happened to me yesterday. I was out for a walk, second walk of the day. It was a great day. It's Paddy's Day. I didn't have a drink, which is really, really amazing. I walked past a Chinese takeaway, and I thought, that smell was amazing. And that's the idea of nose hunger. I said, no, I'm not going to have that. I walked past Lidl, and I said, I'm going to have nice lamb steaks or something like that. And so I bought new potatoes, lamb, mint sauce. This is going to be really nice. And I got home. I was like, I'm not hungry. I'm not going to bother cooking that. I want something small and easy. Chinese. And I swear to God, I had a Chinese ordered and on its way before it even occurred to me what was happening. And I ate it. I haven't threw most of it out, but
nice.
That is something that happens quite a lot. Now, the other idea, like back when we did the very first challenge, I learned that, flexible dieting, have a little bit of chocolate, have a little bit of crisps as part of the regime or the lifestyle that I'm living now. And that worked really, really well. This time around, when I was going to try your challenge at the start of the year, I bought the low-fat crisps. I was like, again, build one of those. It's only 90 calories a pack. Build one of those. I had them gone in 2 days, and I had the chocolate gone in 2 days. So it just didn't work. So binge eating and craving, is there anything other than that? The only way I can deal with those things now is I just can't have them in the house at the moment.
But like in terms of that's, do you know what I mean? That's not a problem with you. Do you know what I mean? That's a problem with most humans. Do you know, in terms of, do you know what I mean? It's not that, I've come across that so many times. It's not there's nothing wrong with us personally, individually. It's just like, if you have temptation in front of you, you're more than likely going to, give into it than if it wasn't in front of you. Do you know what I mean? It's common sense. Some people can and are great at it. But
it's human instinct, because I was reading a book called Human Instinct the other night, and it's fat and sugar and those kind of foods. If they're
hardwired to want them.
Hardwired
to want them, because you got to remember is in the grand scheme of things, in terms of evolution and stuff like that, is we aren't this kind of like as advanced as we'd like to think we are. And in terms of, we're still governed by these instincts of survival, and fat and sugary foods are high calorie foods, and we used to have times where there were famines, in terms of we'd go days without food. So if we see these fat foods, they taste so good, it's like eat more. It's an evolutionary thing to keep us alive. And the problem is food is just so plentiful these days for us.
So it gives me a little bit of small comfort that if there's another famine, I'll survive longer than you.
Exactly. Unless I'm a better hunter-gatherer than you.
Well, this is true.
I'm still banking on my fitness and strength, and I'm going to be able to catch more rabbits than you. So,
Oh yeah, I suppose you got it there. Grand. Listen, John, I probably have loads more questions for you, but I think that's enough for you today. You've answered them all very well. I'm very impressed with your knowledge. Didn't manage to catch you out at all. I didn't even tell you the rules that I had for you at the start of this. One of them was you're not allowed to say it depends. You didn't say it.
I'm trying to work on that. I'm
All
trying.
right. Okay.
A lot of things are context dependent, and it does depend on the person. Owen Fitzpatrick, when he's coaching me, he's like, in terms of, it's like, I say the thing, he goes, yeah, I know, but I need an answer. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, but like, you know, and again, a lot of times individuality does come into it a huge amount. But
It's context dependent.
yeah,
Give him that one instead.
it's the same exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The other rule that you were to follow was you're not allowed to talk about peanut butter and jam sandwiches, because
Right. Yeah.
never forgive you. But
I mean, yeah, well, I'd lie if I say I'm getting sick of them, but I've changed it. I'm not having a protein shake with them anymore because it's kind of too much. So I'm having just milk with it. So like a large glass of milk and my 2 peanut butter and jam sandwiches. But, I had 2 other questions that came in, so I just want to kind of briefly go. One was on fasting. So, in terms of fasting, the general, you can make up your own rules around fasting, but the general question was like, you know, kind of, you do a 24-hour fast once every week or 2 weeks or whatever like that. And it's if you do it once a week, you're probably going to help yourself with weight loss. And if you do once every 2 weeks, it's probably going to help yourself with weight maintenance. When it comes to weight loss, now obviously, again, fasting has a lot of like anti-aging benefits and stuff like that, and very beneficial for us in lots of other ways. But for weight loss, you know, one 24-hour fast a week would be, you know, kind of very, or if the 24 is too much, there's a concept called the 16-8 kind of intermittent fasting, where you fast for 16 hours and you have an 8-hour eating window in the day. You know, again, it's about finding, again, it depends what works for you in terms of, you know, we had lots of people trying to fast, and some people struggled massively the day after the 24-hour fast, and other people were just like, yeah, nothing's happened. That was actually kind of, you know, cool, and I actually kind of did it. You know, people who had issues around, oh, I'm going to be starving, so hungry, I've never gone that much without food, you know, that kind of thing. And there's a big kind of almost like a panicky kind of reaction to it, and then they do it and they go, oh, I can actually do that. It's going back to what we were talking about at the start in terms of, Jesus, actually surprising myself and actually kind of making progress. So they're the kind of, you know, in terms of fasting, once a week, once every 2 weeks, for a 24-hour one, and then the 16-8 you could do probably kind of, again, you know,
my own experience with the 24-hour fast, it works really well. Once I get past 12, sort of 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock time when the hunger kicks in, if I pass that, it's
generally that's what a lot of people report, is there's a certain point where the hunger just almost kind of, you just get used to it and it's gone, almost like,
yeah,
oh, I can kind of keep
disappears, and then the energy levels increase, and it feels like I could forget that the whole concept of eating until that evening. Like, oh crap. The morning fast doesn't work for me because I will eat more in the evening then.
Yeah, in the 8-hour window and that kind of thing. And I think that there's a limitation on that, and certainly in terms of what I generally see most people eating is they don't eat a huge amount of calories for breakfast anyway. So, do you know what I mean? If you're skipping your breakfast and just starting to eat lunch and you only eat 300 calories for breakfast, it's not really going to make a huge dent into your calorie intake over the course of like 5 days or whatever like that. Whereas if you were having a breakfast like mine and just started skipping breakfast, do you know what I mean? You're going to eat, let's over 1,000 calories, like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? You're going to make a significant dent into it. And then there was another question on how do I motivate someone else, and just in terms of, unless that person asks for it, it's probably going to be very hard. I think to answer that question though is like, I think you can inspire people. So I think that's a big thing, is like that you can inspire others by your actions and by what you're doing. So if you want someone, you know, to look after their own health and blah blah blah, that kind of thing, and to do more exercise and activity, I think if you know, kind of, again, not just do your own, but if you can kind of like, let's say people have responded well to me setting out my goal and stuff like that. God, John's very inspirational, you know, that kind of thing. Is like me telling them, okay, I've set this goal and I'm kind of working towards it and achieving it. That it can inspire other people to go, okay, well, that's pretty impressive. Do you know what I mean? It kind of gives people this kind of like to do something like that, you know. And again, it's where I love just reading, watching, you know, inspirational people in terms of people overcoming things, you know, and kind of not giving up or not giving in, and kind of going and going on until they ultimately kind of, you know, succeed. I think, you know, it's probably a bit of a cliche kind of one, but, you know, the pursuit of happiness. Chris Gardner, you know, kind of like his story is absolutely, you know, awe-inspiring in terms of what he went through, you know, and then what he became. You know, that gives me chills, you know, when I kind of read so. But that's the type of things, like, you know, if somebody else can do something like that, Well, then, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what the human psyche slash body is capable of doing. With what, you know, what can I actually test my psyche and test my body in terms of this kind of thing. So I think that's all we can do if we want to kind of like to inspire other people by our own actions, and, you know, maybe doing challenges ourselves or kind of pushing ourselves, and they'll ultimately see and kind of go, geez, that's actually, maybe I should start doing a little bit or something, you know.
Possibility of finding things that you both enjoy doing together, maybe, and then introducing them in small ways.
Yeah,
Tiny
absolutely.
habits.
I get this. Now, again, it's kind of like there's yeah, like I would say, hey, let's go and do some burpees together or do some squats together. But, yeah, it's kind of little things and that kind of thing. But ultimately, you know, it's kind of with regards to motivation, it's like, let's say what Owen said, we're motivated by pain slash towards away from pain and towards pleasure. You know, that's a very kind of internal thing that I don't, unless somebody asks, like, I can be motivating when I'm training people just with my energy and enthusiasm and stuff like that. But that's only because you've kind of given me permission to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm training you. Do you know what I mean? You've come to the gym and I'm now training you. Whereas if you're, you know, kind of out in the street and I kind of run up to you and say, hey, buddy, what's your name? I'm John. Sean, let's go. And you do something you're kind of, hey. So yeah, so no, I don't think that's going to work too well.
Yeah. So I think that's it.
Awesome. Listen, that was great.
I have loads of other ones, and I can possibly think of loads more if you want.
Like, I'm happy to do another one. It's fun. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, it is actually. It is. Yeah, because my own journey over the last 3 or 4 weeks has been pretty incredible. I suppose once I told myself, you know, give yourself up a kick up the ass and stop making excuses, I realized there was something going on in my head, that I was looking outside of me for a solution to something that I had created in my own head. That why am I not moving forward and going to this, that, or the other therapist or whoever and looking for a magical wand that they could shake at me to fix this? And I was like, actually, no, the metaphor I've created is I have got something blocking me in front of me. It was my metaphor. I'm going to push that aside a little bit and see what's possible through that. The other thing that I was in the victim mindset, and I was thinking, okay, I'm like an old battery. I can charge myself up, and that's the motivation I get. But I couldn't even remember the word discipline anytime I tried to think about it. I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't even remember the word. And that was it. Stopped. But whatever mindset shift I had the other day, I was like, okay, so what can I do with that old battery? I can put a charge into it. I can find ways of putting in. My way of charging it up is making sure that I listen to a podcast or an audiobook about health and fitness and keep my mind in that mode every day. And then added some tiny habits like drinking 6 glasses of water a day, going for 8,000 steps, and I'm managing that. Do 4 sets of 10 air squats a day. I can't do that now anymore because my knee has started to creak and it's started to, but I'll find something else to do. So, and listen to that podcast in the morning, and do actually something that's been really helpful is 10 minutes of meditation in the morning as well. And it's an interesting one. I found 21-day health and fitness weight loss meditation where I'm talking directly to my cells.
Nice.
And I get this surge of energy through me, and it just sets me up for the day, but it keeps me going. And then we're using an app called Productive, and the power of a little green dot in there. I've now got 23 days in a row, and that's the first time ever. So I'm pretty sure that this is the time now. I'm not putting any pressure on myself about weight loss at the moment. I'm okay. The water's going to help. Next step, I'm going to think about maybe increasing the protein or doing something else. Maybe doing some stretching, doing some small little things, and just taking it slowly. Because I said to myself, my motivation's all gone. I don't have any goal. And then I said, okay, this thing is going to be over. And I can either come out the other end of it being ready to face the world and go on that beach holiday, or I can come out and then start, and 6 months down the line after it's over, I can do it. So I suppose it's about taking personal responsibility. So it's been changing, and it was the moment, I think it was your first challenge, the New Year challenge. I was like, this is great. So this is going to be easy. This is my life, jumping from diet to diet to diet to different ways to lose. So it's going to be it's not going to be any big deal. So the first day I managed and binged that evening. I was like, give it up. The second time around, I said, okay, something going on here. Can I let this happen again? And that was when the mindset shifted. I was like, I can have to take responsibility for this. I can't have John O'Connell telling me what to do. I have to tell myself what to do. I take his principles and apply them to myself and actually listen to him for a change. Pretty much that. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I think it is. That is a big thing. Is that like people? I think do need to get to a point where they understand the principles and then start to apply them to their own lives, rather than having to follow a set diet or plan. And that's one of the things with it's funny that the 21-day blitz has been very successful for a lot of people that have done it. And kind of, yet a lot of people that have done it are people that would have never done the original one that I ran back in whenever it was 2010, 11, whatever, because it was all or nothing. It's like, you do these days, this is it. There was no gray area or anything like that. It is just black and white. You do this as it's spelled out. It worked again, but it only worked for a certain type of person, and only a certain type of person actually, signed up for it. But we, again, we got like amazing weight loss results within 3 weeks. But it's for me, it's the big thing is, okay, what happens after those 3 weeks? So this time around, I wanted to kind of, okay, can I tweak this and adjust it so that it's more user friendly, I suppose. So it's like, you decide what low carb is for you. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's like, because if someone's going from having, it doesn't matter about the numbers, but like if they're having 300 grams of carbs and try to go to 50 grams of carbs a day, it's just such a big drop that most people are going to be like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do it. Whereas if they go from 300 to 200 or to 150 or something like that, it's a drop, but it's not such a drastic drop. And that could be the first low carb day. The last low carb day, they may go, do 100 today or 70 today. Now, not even that they have to actually weigh it out or measure it, but it's just like, okay, I'm understanding a bit more about carbohydrates. My body's getting a bit used to having less carbohydrates, or even just the habitual foods that we normally reach for would be that, like you said, the higher fat, the higher sugar kind of ones. And so I think that people understanding the principles that you're having low fat days, you're having low carb days, is like, how can they both work? It's just like, but they're both the opposite of each other. Like, and it's just like, well, because you're eating less calories in a sense. Like, but again, which one helps you eat less calories and helps you eat less calories more often? I think that's the big thing. And again, it all turns around. It comes into, it depends. Like when you look at the weight loss studies, is carbs and fats don't really matter. It's once protein is equated, your high carb diet and your high fat diet will do fairly the same.
It's interesting. It's interesting though. I suppose when I joined SF Fitness as well, I had done all of these things: the low carb, the low fat, the whatever diet. Cabbage soup, I never did that one, but lots of different ones. But what was happening was I was mixing up the whole ideas in them, and having a low carb meal and then a high fat meal and a cheat meal and a cheat weekend and all of these things. So it was all sort of combined into one. So the whole concept of the first challenge was, you need to wear one hat, only one of these at any time.
For you, yeah. As I said, the for me as well, it's because I've read and researched and like read up on so many different methods and stuff like that and I bought into them. Like, I used to be very, very low carb and like, keto oriented almost. But it was almost kind of like that, having a sniff of a carbohydrate was going to ruin my physique. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, it was that bad. And a lot of people do have that with certain foods and stuff like that. Whereas kind of like, it's physically, when we think about it logically, we try to think that, and there's nothing logic about kind of why we eat in terms of kind of these days. But when we think about it, it's like, how can one square of chocolate, or half a bag of crisps, and the reason I use half a bag or one square is, how can this tiniest amount of it, they can't make us fat? So therefore, what is the point of no return? Whereas it's like, well, if 1 teaspoon of it, if 1 teaspoon of sugar doesn't make us fat, then it means sugar isn't fat. It's as simple as that. It's too much.
I think possibly for me, it could be the psychological chain reaction that could happen after that. It's like, I'll have that bag of crisps off. I'm allowed to curse. Feck it. I'll have the whole packet now. I'll have the whole lot, and then I'll start on Monday. Oh, sure, I might as well enjoy the weekend now, that kind of mindset. And I think that's what I have to be careful of with certain types of food, certain trigger foods. That'd be that.
That literally is the word. You know what I mean? There are, again, trigger foods for people, and they're the ones, not to try and moderate. Or to have moderation. It's kind of like, but there are generally, other foods. They may not even have to be similar foods, but there are other things that you can, and not necessarily even foods, but other things you can do to get the same benefits. When we're looking at benefits, like the same feeling that we're looking for from that kind of like the binge or the food or the snack or whatever like that.
The way I've managed to deal with that these evenings, so obviously I was looking for a dopamine hit or serotonin or some sort of a thing in the evenings because I was bored. I was like, okay, I'm bored now. What'll I eat? Okay, so if you're bored, what do you like doing instead? I like studying, I like learning, I like reading, and I wasn't doing that. So okay, add it a habit, read 10 pages or watch a TED Talk or something like that. And then as soon as I sit down to do that, I get into it, and I haven't been watching TV. I haven't been doing the binging or picking in the evenings, not at all. And one of those things that work for me, find something else that I enjoy doing in the evenings now, and that's how I manage that one.
Yeah. So what you said there as well about previously as well, the whole thing is, where are you placing your attention on? Do you know what I mean? So, when you're saying, again, like you said, you were losing motivation and stuff like that, it was just like, but like, it's like, where are you putting your focus? So if you're putting your, again, it's like in these times and stuff like that, it's like, put all our focus onto the news and what's the story with the vaccines and, how many numbers and blah, blah, blah. And do you know what I mean? That just brings us down. You know what I mean? It's not related specifically to our exercise program, but it brings us down. If you feel down, you're not, there's certain things you just, you're not going to be arsed wanting to do and that kind of thing. So as I said, if you can place your focus and attention on listening to something like this, listening to podcasts about health and fitness, or, again, kind of like I said, like I love kind of watching inspirational stories. Like I love true story movies, and stuff like that. Like, but those type of things, again, it's just, it keeps me in a better mood, but it also is putting my focus and attention on things. So I'm going to feel more positive about, kind of health and fitness if I'm absorbing more health and fitness, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the ones that are having, obviously I love learning, but the ones that are having the most impact on me, the stories and podcasts that are having the most, are the transformational ones of people who have actually done it and what they have done, how they have changed it. It's all coming back to the stuff that you teach us in SF Fitness, really. It's a calorie deficit. It's paying attention to it. It's the habits, the daily things, and it's keeping that, I've lost the word again. It's not motivation. It's the discipline. That's the one. I'm slipping back there. But those, it's like, okay, it can be done. I can get there. And listening to other people's successes in that area, it's just very, very inspirational, really.
Cool. Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure, we'll probably have loads more questions coming through and stuff like that. So we'll, definitely.
Perfect. And if I think of any more, I'll record them all and I'll send you lists of them.
Great chat, John.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Have a good one, John. See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks a million for that.